So what we will take away from this town hall tonight is meet the County of Grande Prairie's Crime Prevention Team. This is an exciting team that's been put together by the county. It includes myself as your new Community Safety Coordinator. We also have a new Regional Manager, Kyle Palfy, and we have a new Director of Enforcement, which is Lee. Sorry, I totally messed that right up. I'll get to it. We're going to hear from the RCMP. We're going to learn about security and safety assessments and how you can request one, because that's something that the county is going to offer its residents and businesses in the county. We're going to connect one-on-one with the presenters, allow you to have that time, and we're going to explore security services and equipment trade show at the back. So if you have any questions about security systems you'd like at your home, these guys back here can answer your questions and give you some good advice. And, you know, we have these boards, and these are feedback boards, and we have dots on the table. So if you have any questions or any concerns, read these, and if these are areas you want answered, please put a dot on them, because I don't think we captured it all in our rural crime surveys, okay? So what is community safety, a community safety coordinator? Well, that's me. In 2024, the County of Grande Prairie introduced community safety coordinator role to enhance the safety and wellness of the county. Located within the Regional Enforcement Services Department, the role supports Council's priority of community wellness and safety. The role focuses on rural crime prevention, fostering partnerships with residents, businesses, and organizations, and strengthening collaboration with the county peace officers, RCMP, and sheriffs. So what it really does is it bridges that communication. If if you need someone to be that conduit or come out and answer questions for you that you may not be getting, that's what I can do for you. So I'm going to introduce first, because I've already messed this up, myself. I am Corinne James. I am new to this position. I come from 30 years of experience with both the federal and provincial government in enforcement and in investigation with OH&S. In this role, I'm excited. I'm excited. It's a different role. It's something new. It has me engaging with the community, which is very important to me. And I want to be there for you guys and support you guys and help you to provide a safer community and how you can get there, okay? So then, the next one, which I already messed up, is Lee Brockman. He is our new general manager of community services with the County of Grande Prairie. So I'm going to let Lee come up. Sorry about calling you Paul.
Oh, no worries.
Yeah.
Thanks, Corinne. Good evening, everybody. My name is Lee Brockman. I'm the new General Manager of Community Services for the County of Grande Prairie. Really happy to be joining the team, which includes enforcement services and a few other service areas, or a few other departments within the service area. As you can see on the board, ag services, FCSS, fire enforcement, that kind of stuff. So I come to the county with 20 years of experience in the RCMP. All of which was in Alberta, which is my home province as well. So I did about half my career in Western Alberta, half my career in Eastern Alberta. I was happy to come back to Western Alberta as well. I spent about 12 years overall in detachment commander roles at various levels, so overseeing policing operations in communities and that type of thing. And a lot of what I did there was talk to people as well and get feedback from the public in terms of what people want to see in terms of community safety and crime prevention and things like that. So that's where I come from. My last role with the RCMP was as the officer in charge of the Grande Prairie RCMP Detachment. So I was the superintendent in charge of the city and rural detachments. And then I came over to the county, really happy to be joining the county's team as well. So, this is a big priority for our council as well. Community safety, community wellness and safety is one of council's priorities, and we're happy to to be here tonight to really advance that in terms of, listening to people. What are you seeing in the County West, given that we're here tonight as well? And so what do you see? What are some of the things that you have experienced? What do you want to see more of or less of from either enforcement or the RCMP or kind of our entire enforcement umbrella? Recognizing that when we talk about community safety and well-being, it really is an all-encompassing thing, right? Things like recreation and social supports and all that kind of stuff feeds into community safety as well. In terms of approaching it from a crime reduction lens. And so yeah, absolutely happy to have one-on-ones after the presentation. We also have, as Corinne mentioned, our boards, so we really want to get feedback from folks tonight in terms of what do you want to see from the county in terms of how we can support and work with the community to advance community safety and well-being. And so with that, I'm now going to turn it over to our Director of Enforcement Services, Kyle Palfy, for an introduction as well.
Thank you, Lee. As Lee said, I'm Kyle Palfy. I'm the Director of Regional Enforcement for the County of Grande Prairie. I've been with the county now since the beginning of November. Corinne works in our unit. They didn't quite know where to house her when they created the position, but given our partnership with the RCMP and stuff and how we work with it all around the community, they figured it was a great fit for us. For the crime reduction aspect. She gets to work with our enforcement officers. We got one of our bylaw officers here and one of our community peace officers here. So my unit works within the county. We contract services to the different municipalities, whether it's bylaw services or community peace officer services or both. We have contract time that we put into those communities. Our focus is community safety and well-being, so they do stop signs, etc. They also engage with members of the public as well as council within the communities. We're very responsive to the needs of the communities. Our specific contract partners reach out to us, let us know what they'd like us to focus on. So that gives us an idea of where we need to be focusing. We're also responsive to council when they hear from their constituents as to what the problems are in their areas. And we also respond directly to complaints made to us from the various citizens in the county. I'm quite passionate about the unit that I work for. They're a bunch of very passionate individuals that care an extreme amount about what they do. They take everyone's calls very seriously, and that sort of fits with my background from law enforcement. Like Lee, I come from the RCMP, 27 years 25 up in the Peace Country here, with 13 of it being in the Grande Prairie, in the County of Grande Prairie area. I live in the county, so this opportunity to give back on a more personal note, directly responsive to council and to the citizens of the county is greatly appreciated.
Thanks, Kyle. Thank you, Lee. Thank you for both showing me up on how to do a great presentation. So my next introduction is someone I'm very excited to introduce. And he is the RCMP, well, he's not the staff sergeant, he is the detachment commander for Beaverlodge. He's new out here, but not new to RCMP by any means. And he's going to come and speak for a bit. And this is Chris Power.
All right, good evening, everybody. Thanks for the nice introduction. I got a promotion here, too. I'm actually just a sergeant, but I've been in Beaverlodge for not even 2 weeks. So Corinne had actually approached me back in December, wearing my other hat, which is the commander of our district's Rural Crime Reduction Unit, to ask if I would come out and participate in this evening's event and talk a little bit about what the Rural Crime Unit does. And then about a week later, I got a call from our district management saying, hey, we need somebody to go fill in for a few months in Beaverlodge as a detachment commander. Are you able to do so? So I said to Corinne, I guess I'll come and just wear both hats and speak a little bit about my role in the Beaverlodge Detachment and get a little bit of feedback from you folks in the one-on-one later. And then I'll talk a little bit about what the Rural Crime Reduction Unit does in the communities throughout the county. So we have someone at the back prompting the slides. So the Beaverlodge Detachment, you can see the area is quite large that the Beaverlodge Detachment covers. The hamlet of Hythe and La Glace, we've got Beaverlodge, Wembley, Horse Lake, and a considerable rural area, which is just under 5,000 square kilometers. So pretty big geographic area, considering a lot of the time there's just 2 or 3 police officers working, and at times conflicting demands for service. You can advance there to the next. So the structure of the detachment, there's 12 provincially funded police officer positions. So the leadership team is a staff sergeant. So Staff Sergeant Chris Kyle is the permanent commander of the detachment. He's just on leave for a little bit. And there's 2 corporals who act as the supervisors of the constables. So the constables that you see out on the street every day responding to calls for service, engaging with the youth in the schools, those types of things, report to the corporals. And then there's 9 constables, so those are the folks that most of you would interact with in our day-to-day dealings. And we have 4 support staff members that are civilian public servants, and they work behind the scenes, making the wheels turn in the detachment, doing things like preparing files for court and general administrative functions. So it's a very well-staffed detachment. There's no secret that the RCMP faces staffing challenges, as a lot of police services are in the present day. I'm happy to say right now the constable positions in Beaverlodge are all full. So we're well-staffed, which is great. So I do have a few stats here that we can look at. This is comparing 2023 with 2024. These are very fresh stats. I just got them last week. So if you look, it's kind of hard to see, but we have our property crime is slightly up, and I've got another slide we'll go to in a minute here that breaks it down in a little bit of more detail. Our persons crimes and our other criminal code offenses, like drugs, a variety of other criminal code offenses, are down. And if you look at property crime, we've got a 15% decrease in break and enter, a 1% decrease in motor vehicle thefts, but a 26% increase in theft offenses. So theft, I think that is under 5,000, I can't really see. 28 more occurrences, 26% increase. So a lot of the theft under and the theft over that we see in this detachment area are actually oil field thefts. Not to take away from the fact that there is, a lot of theft from residents and businesses, but with the amount of oil field activity that takes place in the west part of the county here, it's a real trending issue across Western Alberta that we're seeing a lot of copper theft. Areas south of here, down around Hinton, Edson, it's really dramatically increased. So I do attribute some of those charges in that 26% to industry theft. You can go to the next. So if you look at the top is Beaverlodge for the year 2024, and then the bottom is the Western Alberta District detachments. So we're comparing our Beaverlodge detachment with the other 23 detachments in Western Alberta District. So you see we've got our 11% decrease in persons crime, 2.9 in property crime increase, not super significant, and then a 3.3 decrease in other criminal code. Whereas compared to the other detachments, they've got a smaller decrease in persons crime, a little smaller increase, 1% smaller in property, and then a little bit smaller decrease in criminal code. So if you look at that, we're actually not in bad shape when we're comparing ourselves to the other areas in Western Alberta. If you go to the next slide, this breaks it down a little bit more, although we're missing, I think we lost the top part of that. which is just the years. So this is a 5-year comparison. Let me just pull something out here because we're missing the important part, which is the top that has all the years. So if you look, our far left column here is 2020, and then this takes us over to 2024. And if you look at the first percentage figure on the left there, that's your percentage change from 2020 to 2024. So if you look at break and enters, from 2020 to 2024, we're down 46% in the Beaverlodge detachment. Theft of motor vehicle is down 9%, and then you can see as you go down the column, we have decreases in almost all the categories, leading to, in property crime, a 13% decrease in total from 2020 to 2024. The column beside it with percentages is comparing 2023 to 2024. So 2023 to 2024, it's less of a decrease when you look at things like break and enter, and there's some increases there. But if you look at the total 5-year comparison, like I said, it's the figures are moving in the direction that we want to see them. There's no doubt about that. So if you move to the next slide here, I'll talk a little bit about the Western Alberta District Rural Crime Reduction Unit. So this is the other hat that I wear. I've worked in crime reduction since 2016. I worked in the crime reduction unit at the Grande Prairie Detachment. Kyle Palfy actually, I think, was involved in selecting me for that unit back when he was involved in the rural detachment there. And in 2018, the province committed funds for the RCMP to establish rural crime reduction units. And if you flip to the next slide, I'll talk about what we do in your communities. So this is something that I really am passionate about. I've spent most of my time in the RCMP in crime reduction, and it's work that most people don't know is occurring in their community. So a lot of our work is plainclothes police work. So when I'm driving down your road, I'm wearing a plaid jacket and blue jeans, I'm driving a pickup truck that might look like it's a work truck or a personal vehicle. You don't know that I'm a police officer, and a lot of the time you might be kind of eyeballing me thinking I might be a criminal because it's, you know, out of place in your particular area. So we work extensively throughout the district. We do support 24 detachments. We're based out of Grande Prairie, and because Beaverlodge is close geographically, we tend to work here probably a little more than some of the, you know, further outlying detachments, just because our unit can't be on the road all the time. So you get a little bit of a benefit being close to Grande Prairie when it comes to our services. So what we do is we do targeted enforcement that focuses on identifying those prolific offenders that are in your community, doing surveillance on them, and ultimately taking appropriate enforcement action that will result in them getting to jail or connecting them with, you know, services through the court process that can get them out of that criminal lifestyle. So a lot of the stuff that we do is well, not a lot, almost everything we do is intelligence-led. So we liaise with the detachments. We have crime analysts who are civilians that look at data, they identify trends of crimes, they identify local offenders that meet the MO of those crimes, and approach me as the commander of the unit and say, these crimes are occurring in the west part of the county, and we think this is the person that's doing it. And then we bring our team out and initiate an investigation. We, our unit, because we work all over the district, we don't have boundaries. So, you know, although Grande Prairie Detachment, you know, might work with an offender that moves to Beaverlodge or Spirit River or further away, they share the information with the other detachments. We actually work in all those areas and follow these people multi-jurisdictionally. So if you flip to the next slide, we also make it a point to involve the local detachment members. So if we come in and do these specialized policing services and exclude them, the members who work every day in your community don't really gain a lot of new skills for themselves. So it's very important for us to involve those members, get them exposed to the type of work we do, so that when we leave and go to the next community, they then have a foundation and they can start to do that on their own at a detachment level within the community. So we also help them build crime reduction plans for the detachment. So identify offenders, whether it's checking people that are on curfew, monitoring people's properties that are known to be, havens for criminal activity, those types of things. We will help build that and then hand it off to the detachment for them to continue to work on. As I mentioned, we're out here a lot in your community and communities throughout the province. There's 3 other teams. Each RCMP district, the 4 districts in the province, each have a team like mine. And a lot of folks are just simply unaware because we're so covert in what we do that we're out there. So the unit is myself as the sergeant, there's a corporal, and there's 6 constables that work with us. If you want to flip to the next one. So I pulled a file. This is a few years old, about 3 years ago that we actioned this one, but I thought it would be a good one to talk about here because it occurred in this detachment area. It was a significant file, and it impacts the oil and gas industry, which is a huge economic driver in the region here and employs lots of folks in your communities. So we used a database that all the scrap metal recycling companies are now obligated under provincial legislation to record their transactions. We use this database regularly. Our analyst monitors this every week, and then she'll identify people that just, their transaction patterns or their criminal history indicates that what they're doing is most likely illegal activity. So we have 2 gentlemen that were known to us that in a very short period, from December 7th to March 16th, $26,000 they cashed in copper and batteries that were stolen from, presumably oil and gas sites when we looked at this. So our analysts did a little bit of behind-the-scenes work. We set up surveillance teams on their 2 residences. This one worked out really well for us. The first night we went out, we weren't even set up on their residences for an hour. They both left at the same time, went west of Grande Prairie, met up, and then went up north of La Glace into an area that is simply just oil and gas. So we knew that we were onto something right away. The issue that we face is, and any of you folks that may work in oil and gas, the remoteness of the sites. These lease roads, especially in the middle of the night, very quiet, there's not much activity. So our traditional method of surveillance in vehicles simply doesn't work. They see headlights behind them, they're not going to commit the criminal activity. So we were able to bring in surveillance aircraft, and with the RCMP, being a national police service, we have the benefit sometimes of bringing in resources from other business lines, other provinces. We share equipment and resources back and forth. So we brought an aircraft from London, Ontario out here. If you flip to the next slide, please. So we did a surveillance operation. We had assistance from the Grande Prairie Detachment on this one. We used our police dog services, our air services. We followed these guys, watched them on the day of the takedown, hit 3 industry sites just kind of north of Valhalla, and initiated a takedown. It was in April of the year, so it worked out well for us because a lot of these individuals try to flee from us. Like if we put the red and blue lights on, they just simply drive like maniacs and take off. So we were able to use the snowfall and the snowbanks on the side of the road to prevent that from happening. One of them unsuccessfully tried to flee, and we were able to take them into custody. So we had them on surveillance from the aircraft, actually committing the offenses. Obviously, when we caught them, they had stolen property, a bunch of break-in tools, and we laid several charges. This one was interesting because this was shortly after the province initiated new provincial legislation for critical infrastructure protection. So we were the first, this was the first time that anybody laid any charges under the Critical Infrastructure Defense Act. And we were successful with this one. It's pretty hard to find a defense when there's an airplane following you and recording everything that you do. So one of these individuals was sentenced to a year in jail, which he served the entire term. And the other, who had less of a criminal record and a little bit of a different life situation, was on house arrest and probation. But the house arrest in this individual's case, we worked with the Grande Prairie Detachment because he lived in Grande Prairie, and they monitored him very extensively, like checking every single day. And I'm happy to report from that time, the last time I looked, which was probably about 6 months ago, that individual is no longer involved in this type of activity. So we had some success with that one. And yeah, so if you flip to the next slide, I'm going to wrap up here. This is just, you can keep going. Okay, so I'll just flip back. I'll put my Beaverlodge hat back on. So like I said, I've only been here a very short period of time. I'm quite grateful that Corinne and the team from the county put this event on, because within the first 2 weeks I have the opportunity to engage with folks like yourselves from the community. So I do look forward to having one-on-one conversations here afterwards. That being said, I very much have an open door policy. So if you have any concerns, questions, suggestions, or ideas of how we can improve our policing services in your communities, if you call the detachment and ask to speak with me, I'd be happy to go and meet with you in a coffee shop, whatever, go to your residence, whatever is most convenient for you, because I very much value the input that you folks have, especially those of you who have lived in this community for quite some time and have seen ups and downs with respect to things like crime and with respect to the detachment, the relationships our members have with the community. In the commander role, I've got expectations that the members are visible in the community, not just in the sense of patrols, but engaged with the youth, those types of things. Proactive activity, we're not the fire department where you sit and wait for the call to come in and respond. I want the members out there initiating these investigations, conducting traffic stops, targeting offenders, those types of things. So in the time that I'm here in Beaverlodge, that's going to be my goal, is to do what we can to get the members out there, give them the support that myself and the folks in the supervisor roles can do to help them achieve those goals. So thank you very much, and like I said, I look forward to chatting with you folks as the night goes on.
Thank you for that excellent presentation. I'm really looking forward to working with Chris out here and getting in the communities and engaging, both of us engaging with you guys. So our next presentation, I'm going to ask Chad Cronk to come up and present with me. So we're going to talk about property security and safety assessments. This is something that the county, with my position, has made available to all the county residents and businesses. And I think it's a great asset and an important asset. So what is a property security and safety assessment? So a property security safety assessment, we will come out and when you request it, and we will look at your property and we will assess it for security and safety risks, just for that. We will make recommendations and provide you with a report. So we will review and assess, and like it says, a report. It's quite detailed. Both Chad and I have been trained in this. It's called CPTED, and we'll get into that in a little bit. But it's something that I think anyone who has security concerns about their property should contact us and look at having it completed. It's free, and we have no problem doing it, and we'd be happy to meet with you. I expect home-baked cookies, though. I like cookies. The next slide. So myself, Corinne James, and Chad Cronk, he is with the RCMP, and he is a Crime Prevention Liaison. And we are both trained in crime prevention through environmental design, which is CPTED. And that's about it. Do you want anything to add about you? Okay.
So I primarily work within the district, so much like Chris's crew team, I work within all of the detachments within our district, so 24 different detachments. So my area basically extends from high level all the way down to Jasper, and then the BC border all the way over to Mayerthorpe. So I have some specifics that generally detachments can request my services for properties that are being hit constantly or those types of things. And then I'll work in conjunction with Corinne in terms of the different areas or different properties. So if I have a property in a specific area that I might not be able to, Corinne might be able to go and help out in those types of things.
I think you can probably answer the next one.
Okay. So what Corinne had talked about was, it's called CPTED. It's a short version for crime prevention through environmental design. And simply what it is it takes a look at the built environment or your home or the property, and basically takes a look at all the different environmental aspects around the property and what you can do to secure them. If you go to the next slide. So you can see it works off of 4 basic core components. The first one is access control. So if you're thinking about access control, you're talking about doors, windows, those types of things, and the locking mechanisms that are around them. And it could even get to the point of the types of padlocks that you're using on your property or those types of things on your sheds, whether or not those locks are in good shape or not, and how susceptible they are to weather and other things like that. The next one is territorial reinforcement. And basically what territorial reinforcement is the difference between private or identifying private and public property. So if somebody does come onto a private property, then they'll look out of place, or they'll be noticeable for whomever is looking after that resident or that business. Then natural surveillance, you can think of it as cameras, you can think of it as lighting, a wide variety of different things. Overgrown trees, those types of things. But it's all about visual acuity around the property and how easy it is to see somebody doing something. The old adage that tall fences make good neighbors, they sure do, but they also allow people to do a lot of negative things under or behind those big fences. So the more visual acuity that you have to a property, the easier it is to spot people doing things that you don't want them to do. And then probably the biggest in my books, in a lot of the properties that I've done, and I'll do anywhere from, in the program that I work through, Project Lockup, about every 6 months, I'll do anywhere between 200 and 400 different properties. And one of the biggest things that I've seen is maintenance. People saying, oh, I knew that light was out, I knew that door needed to be fixed, I knew that I should have been trimming my trees back, and those are all things that add to the other components within CPTED. Next.
So how can you request a property assessment? So you can go to our Grande Prairie website. We also have a QR code on the corner. And if you don't want to scan it now, we have brochures over there with this QR code on them. Just take one, and if you scan it, what will happen is it'll lead you to the request to have one done. It will come to me, I'll review it, and I'll contact you. Okay?
So one of the other big things that we talk about, particularly with the detachments, and a lot of people don't necessarily understand, is that the RCMP is a statistics-driven organization. That means if it's not reported to them, they don't know that it happened. And a lot of people have become complacent in terms of reporting, saying that I don't want to bother the RCMP detachment with something small, like a small break-in, my bike was stolen, those types of things. But even the smallest reporting is important from an informational standpoint to the detachment, so they can pinpoint where crime is actually happening within a community or even within the rural base. So that being said, up here, and I do have some other pamphlets over on the other side about different ways that people can report. So Obviously, you've got 911 for any emergency-based operation or incident. You've also got non-emergency lines for the Grande Prairie Rural Detachment, and then Beaverlodge and Claremont as well. And those would be reporting non-emergency kind of things that are, you've noticed the break and enter or that type of thing and want to report it. There has also been introduced online crime reporting. So online crime reporting, you can actually report incidences online. They'll actually go to a callback unit out of Edmonton where you will generally get a call within about 3 to 5 days from a member. And the beauty of it is the statistic actually goes back to the detachment that it's associated with. So the detachment actually gets those statistics and they actually get the information, so it helps them with any crime mapping that they're doing. And then always we have Crime Stoppers, which is a program that's run all the way through Alberta. But like I said, if you don't want to take a picture of all of this information, I do have some other information at the table. Also summarized on this, the next slide, is the Alberta Crime online and mobile app. So if you're looking for any information with regards to crime mapping in your area, you can get a hold of Crime Stoppers. You can do your online crime reporting here, as well as you can see on the bottom any news that is being broadcast by the RCMP goes on there. This app is a simple central location for you to be able to stay in connection with the RCMP and know what's going on. And there's a lot of really cool information on there. I know some of the phones are a little bigger, but you can actually take a look at the crime map and see what has been reported in your particular area. You can narrow it down to streets and neighborhoods in Beaverlodge, Grande Prairie, Claremont, Sexsmith, those types of things.
So the non-related, non-crime related reporting, which is bylaw and peace officers, is through the county regional enforcement services, and the numbers there and the website. I also have over here on the table a brochure that has all of these links and numbers on them for you guys to take, because I know it's a lot just throwing them on here and no one's going to write it down. So, okay, next slide. So I'm going to let Chad talk about these. These are reporting initiatives, crime reduction initiatives through the RCMP, and I'm going to let Chad talk on these ones.
So RAVE is, for lack of a better term, a reporting system that detachments will use to put alerts out to individuals in particular areas. You can actually sign up. You can go online, sign up for it, and any alerts that the RCMP put out in your particular area, or you could, if you want to, you could see what the whole province or what alerts are going out to the whole province. More and more detachments are starting to use this. They'll put out bolos for stolen vehicles, different information in terms of accidents in particular areas, and those types of things. And detachments are starting to use it a little bit more as their manpower gets a little bit higher. Next. So then we also have a program called Capture. And again, it's a self-registration. If you have security cameras on your premises, by registering them, it does not give the RCMP the right to come and take any of the video surveillance. What it does is it helps members know where video surveillance is. So if an incident happens in a particular area, rather than having to go door to door to door to try and find out if people have cameras, they basically can look at a spreadsheet that'll have a listing of the cameras in their areas, and it'll limit or make it a lot easier for them to get that information and gather that information. Again, if a member comes to your door and says, you have a camera, can I see your video surveillance? You have every right to say no to them. We're not trying to be Big Brother by any means in terms of doing it. We're just trying to take away some of the monotonous work from the investigators trying to gather that information. I think that's it. Oh.
So the other program I'm going to talk about is SCAN, and that's through the sheriffs, which are in attendance here tonight. It is a safer communities and neighborhoods. It is under the Alberta Sheriffs and works to make communities more secure. So they have a SCAN website you can report, and the number, which is also on that brochure. And if you have any questions for the sheriffs, they are here tonight to answer those questions. Some of their mandates have changed that makes them more present in the communities, and I think it's a great initiative and getting everyone out there to reduce rural crime. Okay. So as far as our presentations tonight, that's about it. But I just want to reiterate the importance of how we can utilize some of the services the county has now. And like myself, we're going to be more in the community. I'm going to be out in the community having coffee with you guys. Chris is going to be joining me. We have a lot of different brochures and information for you guys. And we also have these boards here. Again, I'm going to reiterate it, to take a look at and put your dots on it where you think we need to look at areas. I hope you guys found the presentations really good tonight. I think some of them were excellent.